Well, rise and grind, DMV. Happy Saturday. We are waking up to icky conditions out there, and overall, rain will remain in the forecast. So keep it here. We'll break it down for you guys in a bit.
All right, Brittany, thank you so much. Ahead on DC News Now this morning, new details on the investigation into one of Mayor Muriel Bowser's top aides. What a redacted report reveals about the allegations of sexual harassment towards former DC Chief of Staff John Falcecchio. And Republican Senate candidate, former Governor Larry Hogan, taking his stance on abortion, the role that reproductive rights could play in the Maryland Senate election this coming November. Plus, pushing for a solution to fight drug use in our schools. The new commitment in Arlington to expand after-school programs.
You're watching the station covering all of the DMV. This is DC News Now.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on DC News Now. I'm Haley Milan. We're going to get to those top stories in just a bit, but first, we got to check outside Roslyn. We can see her. We can see the skyline, Brittany, but it's cloudy. It's a little hazy. We got some precipitation going on. I don't like this, Brittany. Another icky Saturday.
Yeah, I don't like this either, Haley. It's supposed to be the weekend. We're supposed to have fun, not deal with icky weather. You know, this is the second weekend in the row that Mother Nature decided to give us some rain.
That's accurate, yeah.
So, you know, overall, stepping out the door, make sure you have the umbrella on hand because you are going to need it, not only here in the nation's capital, but across much of the viewing area. Satellite and radar showing you the last couple of hours. We are holding on to soggy conditions across much of the DMV. Starting to see some moderate rain, though, begin to pick up there in St. Mary's County as well as Charles County. So do keep that in mind. But then as you have further off to the west, it looks like Garrett County, you guys are starting to dry things out in portions of the eastern panhandle of West Virginia as well. Now, zooming satellite and radar out to kind of show you the wider view, we have the system right now that is just lingering off to the south. That's pushing up some of the moisture we're going to be dealing with as we head through your day today, and the system will continue to stay to the south. Not only are we going to be dealing with soggy conditions, but cooler temps. That's what we're going to be dealing with as we head through your day today. So keep it here. We'll time everything out for you guys in just a bit.
Brittany, thank you. Developing this morning, a deadly plane crash in Northern Virginia. Virginia State Police say a small private plane crashed in Culpeper just a few thousand feet from the regional airport yesterday afternoon, just after 2:30. The pilot was the only person on board and he died in the crash. Now, the FAA and the NTSB have been notified. The crash is under investigation. New details on the 2022 deadly shooting of a Silver Spring gas station clerk. Jurors in Montgomery County convicted a man facing murder charges stemming from the incident, but there's more trouble ahead for the man. Video shows the moment that Tory Moore shot the clerk during an altercation. Moore is also expected to stand trial for 2 additional murders this fall because when police determined that Moore was a suspect in this incident that you're seeing, they searched his apartment and they say they found decomposed body of his girlfriend who was pregnant. Well, new details in a redacted report that says a third staffer working under one of Mayor Muriel Bowser's top aides was sexually harassed. Now, this comes a week after 2 other women reached a settlement with the district on similar claims, and this is all in relation to alleged conduct by John Falcecchio. DC News Now's Daniel Hamburg has been digging into the report. He has more for us.
DC Councilmember Brianne Nadeau released a redacted report from independent investigators into sexual harassment allegations against former Deputy Mayor John Falcecchio.
The independent investigator called this a modus operandi and that Falcecchio had used the workplace as his own personal dating pool. And I think those are pretty damning assertions.
It's new information after last summer the mayor's office of legal counsel substantiated some claims in its report, but independent investigators say that report de-emphasized the clear substantiated evidence of sexual harassment and hostile work environment. This report reveals a third employee under Falcecchio was sexually harassed.
There was also information about a consensual relationship that he had with a subordinate. And those are two things that are very concerning.
The report makes several recommendations, including amending the definition of sexual harassment in the mayor's policy and specifying how complaints made against high-ranking officials will be independently handled.
It has to be clear to our employees that there is a process for them and a procedure for them to go through if something like this happens to them, and it has to be constantly reminded.
Other recommendations include expanding avenues for employees to file complaints both formally and informally, and making sure agencies are conducting annual sexual harassment trainings.
This never should have happened, and my heart continues to go out to those who survived this harassment from John Falchecchio.
That's our Daniel Hamburg reporting. Thank you, Daniel. Nadeau says that the findings from the investigation will help inform revisions to legislation that she introduced last year to require independent third-party investigations when sexual harassment allegations are made against high-level executive branch employees. New this morning, D.C. Ward 7 council member Vincent Gray has suffered a health setback. The D.C. lawmaker and former mayor announced that he suffered the setback back in April and is undergoing physical therapy. Gray previously suffered a stroke back in 2021, but the council member says he's working every day on Ward 7 and council business. Gray is set to be awarded a doctoral degree tomorrow at George Washington University's commencement on the National Mall. He's previously announced that he will not seek re-election this coming fall. Well, DC News Now is your local election headquarters, and abortion will be a key issue in the upcoming U.S. Senate race in Maryland. Our political and government reporter Leonard N. Fleming caught up with the candidates, and that is Republican candidate, former Governor Larry Hogan, and Democrat Prince George's County Executive Angela Alsobrooks. He shares where they both stand.
Well, the former governor says that he's always been in favor of protecting abortion rights for women, but he's furthering that stance by saying now that he is pro-choice, a stance that Democrats say they don't believe. Former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, now the GOP nominee for an open U.S. Senate seat, says this Friday.
I'm not personally in favor of abortion, and I was raised as a Catholic, but I also have said for decades that I wasn't going to make that choice for anyone else.
And that dovetails with Hogan declaring this week that he's pro-choice after previously declining to officially take a stance.
No one should come between a woman and her doctor. That's my position.
And the popular two-term governor says that he would also vote to enshrine abortion rights into federal law and the state constitution.
I think he has a record that Marylanders will become aware of.
Democratic opponent and Prince George's County Executive Angela Alsobrooks told DC News Now on Wednesday that Hogan isn't for abortion rights in Maryland.
They will know for sure that he is a person who is not pro-choice, that he vetoed important abortion care legislation that would have expanded that care across the state.
But Hogan says over the past 90 days, he's listened to Marylanders' concerns about the overturning of Roe v. Wade.
You know, voters do trust me in Maryland.
Hogan says that he expects Democrats to attack him on the abortion issue, but that Marylanders know him and his record. Meanwhile, Alsobrooks says that she also will seek to define Larry Hogan, particularly on the abortion issue. Reporting from Prince George's County, Maryland, Leonard N. Fleming, DC News Now, back to you.
Thank you, Leonard, for that reporting. And Prince George's County Executive Angela Alsobrooks celebrating her win after a nail-biting campaign against Congressman David Trone earlier this week. She won the Democratic primary election by a wider margin than many polls were predicting pre-election day. Now, according to the Maryland Board of Elections, she beat Trone by 11% with 54% of the total vote. Campaign experts believe political support and grassroots campaigning made the difference. Alsobrooks says she was in the homes of undecided voters before primary day, explaining her political record and her vision. She also had the support of top Democrats in the state.
You had Governor Wes Moore, who was behind her, Senator Chris Van Hollen. This was really a lot of cash versus party party establishment support that really helped Alsobrooks sort of win out on Tuesday.
Political experts believe Alsobrooks is currently slightly favored to beat former Republican Governor Larry Hogan in the general election. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin vetoed 48 bills ahead of a midnight deadline yesterday. That includes a bill that would have established a person's right to contraception. A statement from the governor's office says any legislation on contraception must be coupled with protections for providers and respect the rights of parents to make decisions for their children.
It's just a big question about enforcement when, in fact, a physician may make a decision that is so fundamentally based on the health of a patient and therefore wanting to prescribe something different or do something different that needs to be in the physician's judgment.
Also vetoed a bill that would have stripped the United Daughters of the Confederacy of certain tax exemptions. And he vetoed a bill that would have legalized skill games in Virginia. Developing now, Google is asking for a federal judge to give a verdict in its antitrust lawsuit instead of a jury. The U.S. government says Google violated antitrust laws by building a monopoly on the technology that powers online advertising. Google says it wrote a multi-million-dollar check to the U.S. government saying that the company negates the government's argument for requesting a jury trial. The trial is set to go before a jury in Virginia this September. On Capitol Hill, junk fees are once again in the hot seat. The House passed a bill this week that would require event ticket sellers to disclose the total cost of tickets up front to consumers, including those so-called hidden fees. And lawmakers say the piece of legislation is aimed at increasing transparency in the live ticket marketplace. The bill would also ban the sale of tickets that sellers don't actually have, as well as guarantee refunds for event cancellations. Now, it passed 388 to 24. All right, Brittany, looking outside, today's not really an outdoor concert day.
Yeah, not for a concert, and even if you're heading to Preakness today, it's going to be icky out there, so do keep that in mind. So let's take a look at your Preakness forecast. There in Baltimore, still going to be holding on to rain showers as we head into 10 o'clock. Lower 60s as we head through the afternoon. Still going to be holding on to some rain around 2 o'clock, but then notice temperatures in Baltimore will be a tad bit warmer than here in the nation's capital. They're going to be seeing their temperatures get into the upper 60s, whereas so closer to home, we're going to struggle to get out of the lower 60s. So keep it here. We'll have a full breakdown of that forecast and when we can see rain finally move out coming up in just a bit.